Hey, Candace, Jamie, Lisa, Daryl, D Brown. I don't know your name.
All right, so we are officially live on Facebook now. Thank
Great.
y'all for your patience. All right, close all the tabs. All right, Stephen. So, is my Wi-Fi connection seeming good on your end?
Looks good to me.
All right, great. All right, then everybody who is watching live now through Zoom or on Facebook or is watching later, welcome to the Texas Normal March meeting. We are going to be talking about election results here in Texas. Oh, that was Daryl. I haven't seen you in a while. Hi, Daryl. I'm here with Stephen Carter. Stephen Carter is our secretary and helps with crafting a lot of the stuff that we do, making sure that we have all of our minutes organized, and is a bit of a political junkie. So he is joining me today to talk about the results. We are not going to go super granular. We want to hit some of the high notes, and then we want to turn it over to Q&A. So I think we'll kick it off with talking about the governor. So we did some looking at the numbers, and it wasn't necessarily super competitive on either of the political party sides. It looks like it's going to be Beto with 91% of the primary vote, and Abbott with 66%. Now that is actually significantly less, I think, than it was last time he was in a primary. Do you recall, Stephen?
I think he won his last primary with a little bit more. I wish I grabbed those numbers, but we did not. But and also these numbers are not final. We've still got a few polling locations trickling in, but they should be pretty close. They're close enough to call at this point.
Right, especially with that margin. And then, Alan West and Don Huffines are of note because of, their position, I think, and the fact that they were able to pull some of that vote. Do you want to tell everybody a little bit about who they are?
Yeah, well, Beto pulled 965,722 votes so far, and that was earlier, maybe a little bit more, but yeah, almost 92%. And his next closest opponent was Joy Diaz with just over 3%. And that's not a surprise at all. Beto had been campaigning pretty strongly, and we weren't surprised to see Abbott win as well. Both Alan West and Don Huffines, his two major opponents, both polled at about 12% each. So yeah, there's no worry about a runoff there.
Right. And Alan West, he was the chair of the Republican Party for a while, right?
Right. Yeah. Here in the Texas Republican Party, or Republican Party of Texas. Let's say that right.
Thank you for the correction. And then Don Huffines served in the legislature as well.
Correct. Yeah. And then both of them challenged him in the primary this year, and it went about as expected. And the governor, he controls which bills get signed at his desk. So obviously the governor has the opportunity to veto bills and also appoint people to boards and entities within the state. Beto obviously has in the past expressed his support for the cannabis issue. Greg Abbott has been more closed off. He seems to have come around a little bit over the years. He originally said that he would be opposed to it entirely, and then we got a medical bill from him, and then at one point he said, well, maybe we should put people in jail, keep our jails stocked up with people who've been arrested for marijuana. So if we get another big bill in the next session and it gets to his desk for a big penalty reduction or a big medical expansion, it's quite possible that he would sign it and not oppose it.
And recently, on the campaign trail, he mentioned, about reducing penalties for marijuana possession, inferring that had already been done. False. It has not. Right. But that does show where his mentality is. And it also goes to show that, I know that his staff have had negotiations on penalty reduction bills and had come to agreements with bills that they would be willing to sign, but that then the lieutenant governor prevented those from making it to the governor's desk. And so I think he's more there on some of the issues than he was years ago, but of course, not in the same way that Beto is
right.
looking at the topic.
Beto has expressed support for full legalization during his time in Congress, and of course, on the campaign trail, running for Texas governor, he's said that he wants to legalize marijuana, and he has said that as governor he will legalize marijuana. And let's take a moment to think about what that means, because the governor can't legalize marijuana, certainly not on his own. And I think that segues very well into our next race, which is lieutenant governor. And the lieutenant governor probably has more power than the governor does.
Well, because of that ability to prevent bills from moving through the Senate. So for those that are not familiar with the process, the lieutenant governor is the president of the Senate, and any bills that are filed in the Senate or come over from the House, he has to assign to committee in order for them to make their first step even. And so he can just choose to never assign a bill to committee. And in recent years, the way that he has really worked the Senate floor is a bit more orchestrated than organic, where people already have decided what the winners and losers are, and usually it's just votes that they know are things that they're going to pass. So it is an interesting position here in Texas.
We've seen it in the past where we know that they were not in session on the floor, and they went back into their offices and they said, this is how we're going to vote on this. They went around, they got everyone's vote, and they said, all right, we're going to hear testimony from you and from you, but this is ultimately what's going to happen. These are the bills we're going to talk about. And the lieutenant governor has a stranglehold on the Senate. If the lieutenant governor doesn't like something, it's not coming through. And we haven't said his name so far, but Dan Patrick, most people should know that. Everyone who is voting in Texas should know Dan Patrick's name, because he is the key to getting anything through the legislature. And he pulled in 1.4 million votes in the primary yesterday, which was good for almost 77% of the vote.
And that was more than, Abbott got.
Well, to be fair, he didn't have any strong challengers.
But he did have quite a few number-wise challengers.
He did. I think he had 4 or 5 challengers. And but it wasn't as contested as the governorship was, and it should have been. It should have been more hotly contested than the governorship. But people focus on the governorship because that's where the power is perceived to lie. So let's move over to the Democratic side of the lieutenant governor ticket. I wanted to talk about Mike Collier and Michelle Beckley. Now, Mike Collier ran against Patrick in 2018 and came within less than 5 percentage points of beating him. I think Patrick got about 4.2 million votes to 3.8 million for Collier. In the Democratic primary this year, Collier is going to end up going into a runoff with Michelle Beckley. Mike Collier pulled about 413,000 votes to Michelle Beckley's 300,000. So Mike only got 41.5%. If you don't get more than 50% of the vote, you go into a runoff with the next closest opponent. So that's what we're looking at for that. And we should see runoffs begin happening soon.
May, I believe.
In May. If you voted in the Republican primary, you can vote in the runoff. If you did not vote, I believe, I don't want to tell people wrong here, but I'm pretty sure that if you did not vote in the Republican primary, but you didn't vote in the Democratic primary or a Libertarian convention, you can go vote in that runoff as well.
So I think as long as you're not already affiliated.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah, and I think also, just so people know, Michelle Beckley served in the House of Representatives this last time around. I can't remember how many sessions she served, but yeah, she was in the House previously.
Right, and we'll see how that goes. It's on the issue of marijuana. Both of them have, I believe, expressed at least some level of interest in it, whereas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick has just completely been opposed to it.
I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure that Beckley was actually even a co-author or was signed on to some of the bills in the House. So I don't know if there was an opportunity for Mike to have done something like that, but for Beckley, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And let's jump over to the Attorney General race. That's been pretty hotly contested.
It's popping on both sides.
Yes, it is.
It really is. The Republican runoff is going to be happening. So I just gave it away. There's going to be a runoff because Ken Paxton and George P. Bush both are
nephew of George W. Bush.
Yes, yes. They ran and since Ken Paxton got 42% and George P. Bush was the next closest, they'll be going in the runoff. Of course, Ken Paxton has been embroiled in a lot of hot topics. I believe that he's being I was just going to go there. And then other things that probably people would like or dislike about things that he's done recently, but he is a very politically polarized person right now, perhaps would be the best way to say it. And for those of you that are political junkies, it is of note that Louis Gohmert ran, but didn't get enough points to be included in the runoff. So he's not coming back next year. That doesn't mean he'll never run again, but he's not eligible to be on the ballot in November. So we get a break from him.
Sometimes you get lucky.
And then on the Democratic side, it's actually going to be a three-way runoff.
No, it won't be a three-way runoff. It'll still be a two-way runoff.
Oh, would it? So it's going to be Jaworski and Garza then?
Well, we're not really sure just yet because results
how close
it is. It's so close. The great thing about the Democratic side is that both of the top candidates right now have heavily emphasized the need to legalize marijuana in their campaigns. Mm-hmm. Both of them have ran on it heavily. Joe Jaworski has talked about it nonstop since early last year.
And Lee Merritt tweets about it a lot.
Right. And so Rochelle Garza got 43% of the vote, good for 432,000 votes. And Joe Jaworski got 19.59% of the vote, which is just a little bit more than Lee Merritt. So more than
we're talking tenths of a percentage point. So this is when we are going to wait for 100% to call it, right?
We're talking like 1,600 votes right here. So 1,600 votes in a statewide election, too close to call right now. But right now it looks like Jaworski will go into a runoff with Garza.
Yeah. The next one I want to make sure we talk about is agricultural commissioner. We've got a really robust and thriving hemp market here in Texas, and Sid Miller is the incumbent for the Republican Party. He did take their primary, and he was overseeing the rollout of the hemp program. However, people are probably also familiar with the fact that his lobbyist was charged with, I forget exactly what the charge was, but for basically conning people out of money for hemp licenses.
Selling access to hemp licenses. It's abuse of power, but he couldn't even really do that. So he was basically running, well, we don't want to make too many accusations.
We don't know, allegedly.
Allegedly.
I hear Jamie saying, allegedly. But no, so there's some drama there going on. And so Sid Miller was in a race with actually several challengers, one of which I wanted to point out is former Representative James White. James White was supportive and actually authored one of the better penalty reduction bills of the session that addressed all of the issues that needed to be addressed. And I believe he also co-authored some of the medical bill, if I'm recalling correctly, and he always voted on the right side. So he would have been a worthy Republican candidate when it comes to cannabis. But going to the Democratic candidate, the one who won is Susan Hayes. If you watch some of our things, you may have actually seen Susan before because she is a cannabis lawyer, a hemp lawyer here in Texas, and does a lot of lobbying at the Capitol for change, and she speaks at events. And so she's running for the Democratic ticket for the agriculture commissioner.
She spoke on one of our live streams a few months ago, actually.
Yes.
So she's been heavily involved in the cannabis movement.
And she understands the issue and is qualified as an ag commissioner because, they have, I think, 5 qualifications that you have to meet in order to run for the position. So happy to see that she's on there. Also, I know that Sid Miller has a lot of, he's done a lot of support for the hemp industry. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the election that's coming up November.
It might not be surprising to see Sid, address the issue of cannabis on the campaign trail.
Yeah, I mean, he's done media on it and spoken on it before. I've gone to several events where he's spoken about cannabis. I visited a hemp garden with him at one point, so I know that he is trying to understand the issue, and definitely I will not be surprised one bit if we see him talking good stuff about hemp on the campaign trail.
So let's move over to our state representative positions. There were a few positions we wanted to talk about that we thought were noteworthy because these were representatives who were very supportive of cannabis issues last session. In fact, they authored or co-authored bills on the subject. Moving over to District 45, which is areas south and west of Austin. Is it I'm ashamed that I always get this wrong. Aaron Zwiener or Zwiner?
So I believe it's Zwiener.
He has told us before.
It's one of those things where it's like, I'm sorry, I can't get it right. I know that it's one way. It's potato, but saying it wrong is not nice. So
you want to get someone's name right.
Correct.
That's the polite thing to do.
I think it's Zwiener, but
yeah. So she authored the penalty reduction bill in the last session, and she came away out of her primary with 80% of the vote. She cruised to her nomination just like last time.
Yeah, Moody kind of passed the torch to her, if you would, and she had the civil penalty bill. That's the bill that advocates had really worked hard with the governor's office to get it to where he was wanting to see it. And speaking of Joe Moody, I know everybody's knows who Joe is because he does so many good things and was also Speaker Pro Tem for this last session, and he ran unopposed in El Paso. I'm not surprised because people would know that that he was going to
win. People like Joe Moody. They
like
well, I mean, he does for them out there. Yes.
Yeah. But he had the concentrate penalty reduction bill, which made it through to the Senate and even had district attorneys and lab forensic people, testifying in behalf of it, in support of it. So he also did a legalization bill, if I recall correctly. And of course, he votes positively on all of these things. And usually is at the back mic making some kind of, pointed question to point out a logical fallacy or some kind of compassionate argument. So definitely appreciate Joe Moody out in El Paso.
Joe Moody's always been on point on this issue. He was one of our earliest supporters on this movement.
Yeah, thanks to the good work that El Paso Normal did with him out there.
Absolutely. And Colton Morris. Absolutely.
Yep. Local advocates, you can make a difference.
Yes, absolutely. So we also had another state representative in District 31, which is parts of South Texas from the border up till just below San Antonio. Representative Ryan Guillen, he's a Republican, and he won with 58.61% of the vote in his primary. So he'll be moving on to the general election and probably getting reelected as well. Probably most incumbents will win reelection this year, it looks like.
It's very unlikely in Texas for incumbents not to win because there's only out of our, 200 districts, there's only 5 that are competitive in a race. It's usually gerrymandered so that what the political party is. And Ryan had co-authored the concentrate bill, but he also has done other legislation having to do with medical and I believe hemp even as well.
He's been on board with all of it, but he did step up and co-author last session, so we appreciate that.
Yeah. And I will say there are, 150 representatives. There are 31 senators, and you've got the governor and lieutenant governor. So we could go really granular into where all of the players have gone, but we just wanted to hit some highlights and encourage you to look up, what were the results in your area so that you can start to prepare for, November, and not just November, but keep in mind that during this campaign season is when politicians are the most likely to listen and have meetings with incumbents. And so going out on the campaign trail, going to fundraisers, volunteering for their campaign is going to be a really great way to build that communication and rapport with them and their staff, so that during the session, there's someone that and they are like, yes, let's just chat real quick, I have a moment, versus not having time for you, because the legislative session is just quite busy, honestly, and that is not the time to get to know somebody for the first time. But I did want to mention one more thing before we go. Stephen and I kind of debated if we should include this, but I'm going to do it because I'm salty, Stephen.
Hey, I'm the one who's got to live with him. So Representative Pete Sessions used to be up in the Dallas area in Congress. He was in senior leadership in Congress, and he was blocking federal legislation to change cannabis laws. And we ended up seeing him be unseated a couple terms ago, and we thought, we're rid of him. We don't have to worry about this guy anymore. And then he came to my hometown and decided to run for Congress again. Yeah. And he ended up beating the handpicked selection of the former representative here that Bill Flores picked. And then he pretty much cruised to re-election this year again as well with 70% of the vote.
Yeah. So he's not gone.
He's no longer in a senior leadership position, though. He doesn't chair any committees, but he's still going to vote no.
Yep. He
more
will
than
be
likely
a no vote
whenever a marijuana bill comes up in Congress.
Yeah. And I will, a lot of people who are watching are probably like, what can I do right now? What's something I can do right now about cannabis law reform? And if you go to National Normal's website, which is just normal.org, and you click on the Take Action page at the very top, there's about 6 or 7 federal actions that you can participate in. There is legislation on the move at the federal level, and Normal's lobbying consultant. No, that's not his name. I'm not saying his position right. So his name's Morgan, and he does all of the federal stuff. There's several things moving, and he was able to get 2 Texas legislators to sign on to one of those bills. So make sure that you participate in all of those action alerts, because right now Texas is in the interim, which means we are not in a legislative cycle. We are in the elective part of our cycle. Our cycle is every 2 years. So this relationship building we do during this interim is extremely important. I'm sure many of you guys took a look at the Texas Normal Voter Guide at texasnormal.org. We will be doing that again for the general election. And for those of you that were able to watch our candidate forum in February, we will be doing that again in October with the general election coming up. And big reminder, just 6 days after the general election, legislators can start pre-filing legislation for the 2023 legislative session. So it seems like so far away, but it'll be here like that.
It's not long. It's blink of an eye, but definitely take the time between now and then to attend the campaign event, ask some questions. If you like them, volunteer for them, donate to them. So do we have any questions? Let's
I don't see
the Q&A
here,
session.
but I was going, I was looking at chat, not Q&A, and I haven't looked at the comments on the stream yet.
So far, we have not seen any questions. Go ahead and get your questions in. We'll answer them the best we can.
And, it might be good to drop in the comments a link to the voter guide, just because it has access and a quick link to voting records. So if you just want to be able to look back at voting records, that'll be a really cool tool for you.
Yes, we hope that everyone made use of our voter guide this year, and we'll have another one out. And our goal is to help arm you with the information that you need to make an informed decision whenever you go to the voting booth. So we've got a link to the guide that we dropped in the chat and on Facebook. We have a question about what about the Harris County DA?
I think that there's a runoff for the Republican side. No, that I don't think that's the case. I did not look at DAs. I did not follow because it was Kim Ogg down in Houston doing a lot of great work with deprioritization. And
People
of
are
course,
very happy there with what Ogg has done.
I think overall, I don't live in Houston anymore, but so I don't know the inner workings. But I think as far as cannabis stuff goes, people are pretty happy with that.
Mm-hmm.
So down here, let's see.
You want to talk about the conference a little bit?
Oh, that's a great idea. Sorry, I was like going down the Google rabbit hole of Kim Ogg. I'm like, what is happening with Kim Ogg? This is a great question. I'm not gonna be able to answer right now though. So sorry about that. Yeah, we're doing the statewide. I see his response there. Thanks. Okay, yes. So this weekend in College Station is going to be the Texas Cannabis Policy Conference held on the A&M campus. It's going to be a really great event. One of our sister organizations, Foundation for Uninformed Texas, is a premium sponsor there. I will be speaking on Sunday. I'm actually participating in 2 different panels, and I have the esteemed privilege of introducing the veteran panel as well. So I'm going to be very busy on Sunday in College Station doing fun cannabis learning things and advocacy. Anything you wanted to highlight from it, Stephen?
No, just have a good have a good speech.
Oh, thank you. And I think that actually there is a code for Texas Normal TXN 25 where you can save 25% at checkout. And I believe that it is due to a gracious donor, free for patients and veterans to attend. So if you were maybe previously not participating due to maybe financial constraints, I did want to let you know that those options are now available to you.
Great. Thanks for reminding us about that.
Yeah.
And it's gone out in the email, and we'll send another one out in case you miss it.
All right.
Okay. I don't see any more questions. So if we don't have any more, well, we have one more. What are the major issues we have learned from California after they legalized cannabis there?
That too high of a tax rate just keeps people in limbo in between the illicit market and the legal market. That's what we learned, Debbie. We also learned that regulation should be there to protect, but sometimes can be overburdensome. So we have to also be very careful about that. Also, Daryl was asking what the coupon code is. Daryl, I believe it is TXN25.
Yeah. Keep the taxes low and keep the regulations low and let people do their business.
Yeah.
That's what we learned. And hopefully our legislators will have learned that as well.
Well, and now that I'm doing state policy management for normal all across the country, I'm learning a lot about other types of legislation that are being introduced, what things are successful, what things are getting pushback. And so hopefully we can utilize some of those lessons in the next session.
And Lisa added it's also free for students, which
Thank you, Lisa.
Yes.
I appreciate you adding that. All right, friends. Well, without further ado, I appreciate y'all joining us on this beautiful Wednesday night in whatever part of Texas you're in, or I guess really the universe if you're watching us online, right? Thanks for joining me tonight, Stephen, and it was great to connect with you guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.